It's a beautiful Sunday. Bucs are looking to go 2-0. We're going to talk to Joe Zammataro. You're in the Sports Lounge.
And now, you're tuned into Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
My name is Eureka Wheeler, and joining all of us on this beautiful Sunday morning is my man, Chris Glazier. What's good? I'm tagging you in. Bam, there you go, buddy.
Feeling good, man. Obviously, the Bucs are making their home debut today against the Windy City Chicago Bears. Going to be a great matchup here today as the Bears come in 0-1. Your Buccaneers are 1-0. Looking forward to this game today. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. We're optimistic, right? We're optimistic.
Yep.
The defense is really good for the Bucs. The offense put it together at the end. We're really hoping that it can continue that way. Yep. We have a wonderful guest joining us later on in the show, and that's Joe Zammataro of the RBLR Lightning Show. We're going to talk about some awesome pro wrestling stuff. It's a beautiful day for the lounge. So, Chris, let's get right into it. It's Sunday, which means it's NFL Sunday, which means it's Buccaneer Sunday, which means we are going to play the Chicago Bears this week. So how do you one? I guess we all thought we were going to lose last week. Only Zach had it right with this prediction of who was going to win the Bucs game. He was the only one of all of us in the entire network and seemingly the world that predicted a win, but the Bucs did it. So quickly before we get to the Bucs and Bears, how did you like the Minnesota game?
It was kind of what I talked about was a slow start, right? We started slow. The offense was slow. I knew those speed bumps were going to come. It's new OC, new quarterback, new offense. It's going to take time to get things going. And immediately, the first thing you read online is bench Baker, terrible first drive. And I'm like, oh, here we go. In true Bucs fan fashion form, blowing up social media saying, take out Baker already. But I was patient with that game. I thought we played well in the first half. I mean, overall the whole game, but the first half, defense really shined, forcing some turnovers. Antoine Winfield Jr. is just a beast. One of the best safeties in the league, in my opinion. That's not even a homer statement. This dude is phenomenal. His blitzing packages, his ball speed, just a great draft pick from the Bucs. Winfield's been nothing but phenomenal since he's been here. And, the offense started slow. And like I said, we talked about, like, I knew that was going to happen. And then the second half came and you saw how well Baker did in more of a hurry up rhythm offense, right? He got things going. Once he started getting things going, you could see the confidence in him building. And people got to remember too, this offensive line is newly pieced together as well. Obviously, we didn't expect to lose Jensen for the season. So Baker's got to trust his offensive line as well. And he was a little happy feet there in the beginning, but the one thing he didn't do was turn the ball over. And that was one of the keys to the game is do not turn the ball over. Limit Baker's turnovers as much as you can, because we know he's that guy. He's going to take those chances. He wants to make that big play, and sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it's not. So I think the Bucs did a really good job overall limiting his turnovers. And the play calling to me at first was a little odd. I felt like we came out passing a little faster than I thought we would, but I think they wanted to get Baker going, cook Baker as fast as you can, right? I think that seemed to be the game plan. And then we sprinkled in some runs more here and there towards the end of the game. And I think it only ended up being a couple more passes and runs overall at the end of the game. So we had a really good drive there, in the third quarter that chewed a lot of clock, and we were able to get points from Baker, a great touchdown to Evans. So overall, I thought the Bucs looked good, man. That was a surprising victory. I thought we were going to lose in a close one, especially in Minnesota. Yeah. We took advantage of what Minnesota gave us and played a good game overall. The penalties were low, and I think Baker really started to get things going there in the second half.
Yeah, I definitely thought the defense looked amazing in the first half. The offense, though, I still think that we should have lost this game to Minnesota if Minnesota didn't. One, the defense gave our offense 3 extra opportunities to score points, right? And that's what I think. That's what I said in the first show was like most of the top end talent is over there, so I expect them to perform well. And they did their job and went above and beyond creating turnovers and getting that. And Minnesota also gifted us a couple drives and extra chances for that offense. And it wasn't until the very end that they pulled it out. And they pulled it out. And look, I was wrong that we won the game, and I didn't think we would. And I still don't feel that we should have won that game. But guess what? We did. And for all that, it means something. I hope that means we're moving forward and we're gelling or finding whatever that path is on the offensive side. Otherwise, we're going to be waiting and hoping that the defense can drag us to another victory. So, well, we'll see. But again, I for 3 quarters, I was very pessimistic about this offense. I still am pessimistic about this offense until
It's fair to say.
And maybe that's just what they're going to be. Maybe that's just what they're going to be. And it's every game's going to come down to, can we turn on a no huddle? Can we, make them make an extra mistake in the game? And maybe that's just what we're in for. But I'm still waiting on whatever the Dave Canales, offense is going to open up for Baker Mayfield, because it was a lot of dink and dunk. It was a lot of basically you're using these short little pass plays as runs because you didn't get a run game going at all. You didn't, the line for whatever reason just can't overtake the line of scrimmage. We can't, and if you can't get a run game going, more and more and more and more will be put onto Baker Mayfield's shoulders. And he was very efficient, but it was a bunch of they didn't try deep threats. They didn't try medium threats. They got it done, and that's great. But we'll see. So I guess that's my question is I'm obviously very low on the offense right now. What do you think the offense is going to do against Chicago that might turn around my opinion or our fortunes?
I think we definitely have to improve the run game. Obviously, we sprinkled some in, but we didn't have any flashy plays. There's no big long runs. White's supposed to be this new back that's, and we've seen flashes from White last year when Fournette was here of him jumping out of holes and making some big plays. So I was excited for him to take over. And one thing I was concerned with is the fact that after this Thursday night football game, the Eagles ran all over the Vikings. And I don't know if the Vikings were on just, less rest. It's a Thursday night game, but we couldn't run the ball anywhere on the Vikings. And the Eagles were, and I mean, the Eagles are obviously the number 1 rushing team in the league, and it's different schemes and different teams. But that's one of my concerns after watching the Thursday night game was I was like, well, we couldn't run the ball anywhere. And, that was one thing after the Thursday night game. So I really want to see I want to see some more toss plays, maybe some more counters, get Rachaad White outside the tackles. Maybe Rachaad White doesn't need to be running up the middle as much. Maybe get that line moving. And I think a lot of last week was just, building on things and trying to get this line gelled together and trying to, it takes time to get these guys rolling together. So I think a lot of last week was like, hey, we're expected to lose this game, right? So let's go in there and do what we can and see if we can just somehow pull this out, even if we know these mistakes are going to happen. So I think the key here against Chicago is I want to see a run game here. It's not like Chicago has an explosive offense. They struggled last week at home against Green Bay and they looked really rough, and not take anything away from Green Bay, but Chicago, I'm just not really impressed with their receiving core. Justin Fields is yet to be a proven NFL quarterback. Sure, he's got some flash in the pants with his runs, but you can't keep doing that in the NFL and survive. It's gonna take a toll on your body. So I think contain Fields in this game. I want to see us run the ball more and just limit, like I said, limit Baker's turnovers. Do not put him in a position to turn the ball over. I like the leadership last week of the, running on the 3rd down and getting that first down. He didn't run out of bounds. He took the big hit. So that's a big step forward as far as being a leading quarterback here in the NFL. So I want to see the Bucs run the ball early and often in this game.
Yeah, I hope on offense, I hope that they can establish some sort of running game because look, we might have to just keep the ball out of Justin Fields' hands as the best way to contain him because we have a lot of injuries on defense. So, which I'll get to in a second, but thinking that this offense might have to actually carry the load here. They're at home, they're not on the road. So they're going to have the home fans cheering for them. You don't have to get on a plane. You got to just wake up and play a whole game here at the house. So I'm hoping that translates into more rushing, which then can open up more play action, which then can open up more opportunities for Mike Evans and guys like that to make plays that they're not just going to be able to get double teamed and then it's check down, throw to the tight end, check down, throw to the running back. I think that if we get bogged down in that kind of 2 to 3 yards a play, Justin Fields then gets the opportunity to break out a huge run, or it only takes 1 or 2 good plays from the Bears to break through the good defense that the Bucs will have, because we don't have any explosivity. We don't have an option. We're going to have to chunk and grind and move and crawl to 2 or 3 scores. Meanwhile, if they score 2 or 3 times in a half, we can't rebound from that. So that's really what I want to know, because again, on the defensive side, switching to how the Bucs defense is going to go, a lot of injuries right now. Carlton Davis III is out. Kalijah Cansey, the rookie defensive tackle that we brought in to be a bigger pass rusher, out for this game. Christian Izayan, I still haven't got the pronunciation right on him.
Yeah.
Questionable as a safety, but that's a depth piece that you need. And Servacio Dennis, linebacker, out, right? The Bears don't have as many. They've got a couple cornerbacks that are out, but it's looking that we're a little more susceptible on defense in depth positions, really, that towards the end of the game, there might not be those rotations, that it might be the 1 or 2 drive difference in a very tight game. With that said, Chris, what do you think what's your prediction for this game? And what do you think the biggest standout player is going to be of the game?
So I think, like I said, this is going to come down to, since we do have a lot of injuries on defense, which I'm not too concerned, because once again, it's the Bears offense. They're mediocre. It's not like we're playing a high powered offense where we really, obviously I'd love to have Davis out there. Obviously I'd love to see Clancy play, but I think this is a game we can survive and get by without those guys.
Okay.
And that's going to be on us to run the ball, control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, keep the defense fresh. None of these 3 and outs. If you're going to be down guys on defense, then guess what? You got to keep them fresh. It's going to be hot. It's Florida. It's a 1 o'clock game. Keeping this defense fresh is going to be huge, which that means we got to be able to run the ball today. I'm sorry. We got to be able to run the ball. We have to be able to control that clock. Keep Fields' offense off the field. Not that I'm saying they're explosive, but limit the defense on the field as much as you can, so they're staying fresh. Because like you said, at the end of the game, because to me, I'm going to get into my score here in a second, but I think it's going to be a close game. So if it does come down to Chicago having the ball at the end of the game, keeping those corners, keeping those linemen fresh is huge. So control the clock, run the ball, play smart Bucs ball. We don't need to go out there and be all flashy. We're not that team anymore. We don't need to score 30 points a game. If this defense plays like they did last week every game, we're going to be in a really good position to be able to stick with most of these games that we play and have a shot at winning these games. So therefore, Vegas has the Bucs at -2.5. So to me, that means this game's going to be a weird, probably sloppy, low-scoring game. That's my guess on this. It's the Bucs have a history of playing down to our competition and letting maybe teams that we should blow out. Not that I'm saying we're going to blow the Bears out, but that we should really win at home. And we've really struggled to win games at home over the past couple seasons. So I think this game is close. I just can't see how Chicago wins this game unless we play a really bad game. Chicago looked rough last week at home against Green Bay. Now they're on the road here, dealing with our heat, dealing with the home crowd. Ray J is going to be hyped. We're already 1-0. If we win this game, we're 2-0 going into Monday Night Football game against the Eagles on prime time. We're talking us being 2-0, the Eagles being 2-0. So there's a lot riding on the line on this game for it being the first home game, So I got the Bucs taking this one 20-17. I think it's close. Like I said, Chicago's offense isn't that great, but once again, our offense is still working out the kinks. There's going to be errors still. It's only week 2. Yes, things started going better in the second half last week, but I think it's still going to take time. The Bears are 0-1. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of Chicago Bears fans at the game. I think the Bears keep it close. I think we win maybe here on I don't know if it's going to be a last-second field goal or maybe a field goal in the fourth quarter, and then the defense, bend but don't break, baby.
Who's your MVP of the game? Who do you think comes through the most?
Man, I think Winfield has a big game here again. The dude's on fire right now. I love his play. I just love watching him play. It's so it's so nice for the Bucs to finally have one of those big key players on defense that we've missed. You know, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Levante David, but the John Lynch guys, you know, and I think Antoine Winfield to me just brings the passion. I love his style of play. I think he has a big game here. Send the house at Fields and let Winfield get a strip sack fumble to the house.
There we go. I am unsurprisingly on the opposite end of the spectrum here. I believe it will be a close loss at home for the Buccaneers. I mean, again, if you hold the team to under 18 points, you should win this game in the NFL. And I believe the defense, even with the depth, a little bit of a problem, I believe they will hold the Bears to under 18 points. But where's the offense? Again, I want to be wrong, but there isn't much that I saw the first game that tells me that they're going to overpower any phase of the offensive game. And I want it to be true. I want it to be wrong, but it's just looking at the numbers, looking at the game film, looking at what's going on. I don't think we have it in us to score, more than 3 times. So it could be 13 points. It could be 1 touchdown and 2 field goals. Sure. It could be, but I think 3 points is the right kind of spread, like Vegas is saying. And I think that maybe they score a couple touchdowns, but it won't be more than 3 or 4 points difference, unfortunately. But what's your prediction, guys? As you're watching this on Sunday, hit us down in the comments. Let us know. We are at RBLR Sports on all forms of social media. But let us know in the comments, like, how am I wrong? How is Chris right? How is Chris wrong? What's your thoughts, man? Let us know right there. And while you're there, hit that little button. This is hit that little bell that gives you notifications every time we drop a live stream. We had a watch party last night for the Tampa Bay Rowdies as they played San Antonio. We had a live pregame for 30 minutes right before that show. You could get notified every time we put out a piece of content, which is most days of the week. We're talking about your Lightning, your Rays, your Bucs, and your Rowdies. But another thing we like to talk here is betting. So, Mr. Glazier, it's time for your bet of the week.
So last week was a bit of a struggle as the Bengals obviously flopped big time last week. I think everybody had Cincinnati taking that one. So we missed there. The Ravens were able to cover. Washington took the win, but they didn't cover on the spread there. So we're moving on to this week. I'm actually taking the Bucs this week at -2.5. I like the line. Like I said, I think it's a close game. I try to tend not to pick my teams as much as I can, but I'm hype on the Bucs this week. I like the matchup, even with the defenders being out. It's a home game. Ray J is going to be hype, man. This is a big game for the Bucs, even though it's week 2. We have the possibility of going 2-0. So, like I said, I think the Bucs win this one 20-17. I also have the Jacksonville Jaguars at +3.5. Kansas City struggled in week 1. I think Detroit could have won that game by 3 scores if it wasn't for some bad calls. The Chiefs offense just doesn't look good to me. And I know Kelsey was out. Even if Kelsey comes back, I mean, you're talking about one guy carrying the whole team with him and Mahomes. So I think it's in Jacksonville. I don't see why if the Chiefs do win this, it's by 3. And I think the Jags cover on that somehow, some way. Jags look good. Jags are a tough team. It's in Jacksonville. So I like the 3.5 here. I really do. Like I said, even if the Chiefs win, I think it's by 3. I think this is a close game. And then I got the Packers to win. Actually, they're underdogs here on the road in Atlanta, which I'm surprised about because you're talking about an Atlanta Falcons team that does nothing but run the ball every single play. And I don't think that's going to carry you in this league. It's just not. Ridler's not a proven quarterback to me yet. The Packers played really well last week on the road. I think they're a much better coach team than Atlanta is. The Packers took out the Bears last week easy. I don't think Atlanta is really much of a threat. They're going to run the ball, try to control the clock. I think Jordan Love is going to surprise some people this year. So I like the Packers just to win straight up here and take this one on the road. That puts these odds at +620, whatever you're using, Hard Rock app. Hopefully it's out here soon. The appeal was overturned. So there's a possibility Hard Rock launches on Monday, maybe Monday, Tuesday. Lots of rumors going on here. So let's keep the positive vibes going and hope that Hard Rock bet is back here soon.
All right. Well, as promised, we have a big interview for the lounge this week. We've been inviting a lot of the RBLR guys on, and we'll continue that trend with none other than one of our leading guys on the Lightning podcast. That is Joe Zammataro. What's up, man? Welcome to the lounge, baby.
How's it going, guys? Good to hang out.
Man, well, the weather's actually not burning us all alive, so I'm
Yesterday was rough.
Yeah, it's been very, very bad.
So, I mean, I think we're coming into like the best part of living in Florida and in Tampa
sure.
and into October. You know, the weather starts to cool down a little bit. We start to see the end of the baseball season, the beginning of the football season. We have hockey to look forward to. I personally like watching Formula One as well. And traditionally, it's been kind of the end of the season as well. So there's it's a good time to be alive, man.
Well, and you're correct me if I'm wrong, man, but you're also, you like to get on the boat. You like to get out there. Now I don't know how hurricane season affects that. Again, I'm ignorant to all that, but like, when does that usually clear up to be able to get out there?
Oh, I mean,
Just whenever.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really change anything. In fact, you know, my primary business is slinging performance parts for jet skis, essentially, and that's a year-round thing in Florida, making them as fast as you can. And there's a lot of freaks out there that when the surf's up, they like to wave jump. So if a hurricane's coming in, kind of like the surfers on the East Coast, trying to hit some waves. Yep.
Oh no. Well, as much as you're making money year round with the jet skis, I wanted to get into we do the man behind the microphone here at the lounge. So I guess my first question to you, Joe, is like, you're one of the few people that I know that's born and raised from this area. So like, have you growing up, like, what was it like, your first memories of kind of like being a sports fan for these teams? Did you originally like Tampa teams, or maybe did the family member have other loyalties, and how did that all work out for you? Yeah.
So, growing up, you know, going all the way back. So I'm 38 right now. So going back to when I was, let's say, like in elementary school, I went to elementary school in St. Pete at a school that's not even there anymore, Rio Vista. It's now a giant, beautiful park in the St. Pete area. Back then, I remember I was actually, for baseball, there wasn't a baseball team. The closest thing we had was when the Yankees would come to town for their spring training. So I kind of grew up a Yankees fan.
Okay.
And you know, I enjoyed baseball quite a bit. And then I remember getting free tickets to Lightning games, and you know, they'd be given away to some of the people that are in school there, and went to a few Lightning games, and you know, a couple of Bucs games when the family could afford it, because even back then it was it was hard to get out to them all. But I'd say that it was football was you know, definitely the dominant presence in the area.
What's who are we talking? What teams? Who's on those teams? Your first Bucs teams that you're like, oh man, these are my guys.
I don't. Oh man, it was tough watching the Bucs for a while there. I mean, they were. You know, it was all Florida or all Tampa teams were pretty rough. I mean, to think that the Bucs had Vinny Testaverde at one point in time, and and you know, gave up on him as a talent. I'd say started getting into him when, you know, the likes of John Lynch and Warren Sapp, you know, those era of guys, you know, Derek Brooks coming in, and you know, that was the Tony Dungy days where it started getting excited, and that was also when I was in high school. So it you know, sports became a little bit more came to the forefront a little bit more with my friends.
Do you have any specific memory, maybe from a Bucs player back then, that really, you know, kind of drew you in, that you remember back in your high school days or anything like that?
I do remember. I think it may have been Derek Brooks ended up calling John Lynch what was like the human missile or friendly fire, because he went in for a hit and broke his teammate's hand because he led with his helmet, and he was such a fast and hard hitting player, and just the speed of those teams. I mean, that was with like Rondé Barber. I just loved that whole lineup. I wouldn't say that there was an absolute favorite. Just that defensive. I know I keep talking about the defensive players, but that that defensive lineup that Tony Dungy put together was incredible. And of course, it wasn't him that was coaching in the end to win it, but he definitely assembled some mean players.
Well, they're on the Hall of Fame now, basically. Like that whole lineup. Yeah. That whole lineup.
That was a fantastic team we had for that Super Bowl run. That was some really good memories back then. That defense was loaded, man. That was what a time to be a fan. That you don't see defenses like that anymore, and it's just one of those things that you'll never forget. Even especially as a Bucs fan, we'll never forget those days. So
yeah, I was going to look it up. The number of defensive points that were scored that season was ridiculous. I'm not real good at pulling up football stats, but I remember there were so many interceptions or fumble recoveries that ended up going the opposite way, where the Bucs scored. That was definitely something else. And I think Rondé had something like 7 picks that season. Just the stats were insane, and of course Warren Sapp at the time was almost unstoppable. Had to be double teamed in order to slow him down at all times. That they were stacked.
So I see you representing that Lightning hat there. So maybe talk to me a little bit. What really drew you into hockey? Obviously, they always said hockey wasn't going to be successful here in Florida. It's not going to work. It's 100 degrees outside every day. So maybe give us how did you really get into hockey? What really sucked you in and made it be your sport here in Tampa?
Yeah, sure. It is actually, I had a buddy that lived in Riverview that lived across the street from my grandmother when I was growing up. I've known him since I was 6 years old. To this day, still my best friend and business partner, as a matter of fact. And so we went to different high schools, and he grew up playing roller hockey, and was really into it well before the Lightning were anything to really watch. And there's a few guys that actually lived on that street that grew up together and grew up playing. And the Lightning, started getting better and better, and they'd always watch it. I just wasn't really huge into it, but kind of kept in touch because of them. And then it was again, once high school rolled around, that started getting into hockey a lot more. I'd always watch the playoffs because there's nothing like playoffs in hockey. I mean, it's just so intense and so much faster. The hitting's so much harder. Even as a casual fan at the time, I could definitely appreciate what would happen in the playoffs. The downside was the Lightning just never really made the playoffs. So, I'd kind of stick with some other teams. I remember enjoying watching the Devils for a period of time, who were really, really good back then. And Scott Stevens just, absolutely concussing the hell out of players coming across the ice, and just what would be definitely illegal hits, in this day and age. But at the time, no one was worried about, was it traumatic brain injuries? CTE, no one was CTE, right? No one was thinking about that, so it was entertaining and fun. and then the Lightning started watching them more and more as they started becoming better and better. And then I moved to the Tampa area, like into Tampa for college, going to USF, and they had this thing where it was $5 to get in for the student. They call them student rush tickets. Yep. All I had to do is wait outside, and you'd get the best ticket available, like the day of the game or something, for $5. So there'd be a bunch of people outside. So we probably went to of the 40 games plus however many playoff games, we probably went to at least half of them.
Wow. Okay.
Pretty much on the cheap. And then playoffs come around and they still had it, except for you had to end up camping outside for like a night or two in order to get some of those tickets. So I actually went to game 1 of the Lightning's first Stanley Cup game against the Flames, and that was exciting. It was a loss, but man, to get inside. And the craziest thing was that was when they first started allowing people onto like the plaza area outside, and they started to
watch parties.
You do the projector, and it was a raw feed back then. So this was before you had smartphones where you could check on things. There was, I had a flip phone, I think at the time. It was at 2000, I guess it would have been '04. I had a flip phone, so there's no way for you to do like live stats or any information. It was a raw feed from the cameras inside, meaning there wasn't a bug on them. So you didn't know the score, you didn't know the time. It was just the action. And that was for that game 7. I was watching it outside, and I'll never forget that anxious feeling where it felt like the Flames, they're down by 1, had all the momentum in the world, and they're going to come back. And you're just, it's odd to want the game to be over as soon as possible. But we had no idea how much time was left. And there was one TV that like way in the back, because there was some sort of little bar that was there, and people would be calling it and then like kind of relaying how much time was left in the game. And it would take, maybe a minute for it to relay all the way over. So it'd be like, there's 13 minutes left. Okay. All right. We're getting closer. 7 minutes left, but everyone's anxious and you can feel all the energy in the crowd. And man, that was such a magical run. That 03-04 team was great. They're the hardest working team. Torts really knew how to get them all fired up and really, I thought outworked. They didn't necessarily outskill all the teams. They just outworked them all. And man, what a high going to so many game 7s. And I gotta say that I think what probably solidified me as having so much passion for hockey is the fact that there was a lockout the next year.
Yep.
And what an empty hole you feel after such a rush.
Man, pain.
Oh. Yeah, so there's it's so loud, right, with everything going on, and then just completely quiet, and it's unnerving, unsettling. So a few of my other friends that had never played hockey before decided to buy a pack of sticks. I think it was like $40 for like 8 wooden hockey sticks, and we started out on tennis courts. My other guys that I grew up with, had their gear, and we're just playing ball hockey for like a year or so, just to kind of still get that, that feeling of being connected to the sport. And then next thing you know, like, geez, I'm starting to get old here, guys. Like 20 years later, we're all playing ice hockey together. The same guys that I grew up with. Yeah, right. We're all on the same team. We play on Thursdays and Sundays, and we play on the same ice together now. And it's been something that's really been fun to bond over, not just the team, but the sport in general and the feeling of the community.
See, that's what I was going to ask you about. That community aspect is that, hockey is one of the great things about hockey is it's indoors and air conditioning, and it's but there's not a lot of there's not frozen lakes like Minnesota or anything to get like the youth around. So could you speak to like how is that kind of like play that for people who play hockey recreationally around this area? Like, what are some of the good and bad things that you've seen in that aspect?
It's absolutely insane how big it has become, and especially after that 03-04 Cup run. It seemed like, that draw brought a ton of people, brought awareness to a ton of people. I started off in like a beginner league back then, and there was only, I think, like 5 or 6 leagues. Now the facility that I play at in Brandon, was it TGH Iceplex is what it's currently called. It used to be Brandon Ice Sports Forum. It's been like the top 5 most registered adult hockey players in the nation for a long time now. There's so many people that are playing it. The crazy thing about the youth program, Vinnick put in some stuff to really help promote it locally. There used to only be a handful of teams. Those guys on that block growing up played high school hockey, and it almost went away. It went away from Riverview High School for a while, and then it ended up coming back, and they have some plans with other schools where they kind of merge the students in order to field a team. Then again, I think Newsom has 2 teams out there in Fishhawk. But the thing that's from my point of view that's really changed is how much the skill level keeps going up and up and up in the adult leagues as you get these kids that started playing around 8 years old. They become 18 and now they're in the men's leagues, and they got some skill, man, and they got some speed, and the amount of good players that are in these leagues is ridiculous when comparatively. I was just a fresh player, and I could play in like a mid-level league after a few years. Now you've got guys that are, they're flying out there, and there, wouldn't be a chance. And it makes sense for it to grow. I mean, like you said, if you got a kid that's playing football as a parent, you got to go out there and watch their games, or baseball. You're going to watch their games in the Florida heat. Yeah. It was, Chris, you said it was, really hot yesterday, right? Well, it was probably like 93 degrees or something. It
was brutal yesterday.
And you're in the sun. They got, it's air conditioned. They have a bar inside the the ice rink. I mean, if it came to my choice of what I'd, enjoy more with my kids, it definitely come down to ice hockey. And I think a lot of parents have seen the benefit of that as well.
Has like the cost of equipment, because like in soccer and a lot of club sports, there's a barrier to entry, which is money. And with hockey's one of those sports that every player has to have a lot of protective equipment, right?
For sure.
How is it like that? Like, I mean, you playing in the men's league, but you have to foot the bill for all that stuff. Like, how is that?
Yeah, my wife might watch this one, so I'll save from saying exactly how much I end up spending each season on sticks, and that my skates are more than 2 of our car payments.
Oh, that's
yeah, but that's for good. Kids, there is definitely a barrier to entry. Okay. The leagues, I think the travel fees are something like $2,000 or $3,000 per season, on top of the equipment. I know that with the Lightning, what they have going on, there's some sort of learn to skate sort of program where they'll get you outfitted for free with the majority of the stuff. Mm-hmm. And then because kids grow so much, there's a really good secondary market for buying things like Play It Again. But it is definitely expensive. Okay. Kind of everything in Tampa is, though, compared to the way it was, say, 10 years ago. Everything is just ridiculous. But it doesn't seem to really be slowing down the growth in the area.
Because I just wonder, like, hockey is a thing that they said, hockey won't work in Florida, and now, I mean, I can't speak to the Sunrise market, but, I know Tampa it's a bustling market, not just for us watching our Lightning that are doing so well that we love, but what really fosters that engagement, you're seeing it with the Rays now that they're 20, and the Rays and the Lightning are relatively the same age, right? So now you're getting into a point where most of the players on the team were born after the inception of this team, and now you finally have in this market people who have kids that are old enough to now be watching the Lightning, that like, my dad and mom liked the Lightning, and now they weren't Devils fans that moved to Tampa or whatever, And so growing up as a kid, having those memories of playing the game, loving the game, and then transferring that to loving the Lightning is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. So, I mean, you no doubt if you've been, if you're born and raised in Tampa, you definitely know this to be true. But if you've been here for more than, say, 5 or 6 years, there used to be certain games, and it doesn't matter the sport. It could be the Bucs. It definitely was very, very true for the Rays for quite a bit of time, and then certainly for the Lightning. Certain games during certain times of the year will feel like you're attending an away game, specifically when the Bruins would come to town, or actually really the Red Sox. The Red Sox would come to town, and the Trop would be bleeding red. There'd be more Red Sox fans in the stands than Rays fans, and it's still, if you're living in the Toronto area and it's winter, and you want to escape that frozen hellhole, what do? You come to paradise. You come down to Florida.
Yeah.
Now Eureka's laughing because I kind of love just trashing the Toronto market. You'd think with how cold it is, their skin would be thicker, but so you come down to Florida. It's cheaper to take your whole family down here to watch a game than to try to get accessibility to your team up there. So they travel well, and you'll still get a lot of Toronto fans in the stands. Some of them will fall in love with the area, and it's true with everything in the Northeast. They'll fall in love with the area and end up moving here. And so you get a ton of transplants that hold on to their loyalties to their original team. And that's to be expected. I mean, that's Tampa. Tampa's always been, I don't know why necessarily call it a transient city, but a ton of transplants.
Yep.
But man, things have definitely been changing the few years. Like you said, Eureka, you've got guys that are now adults buying season tickets that have, the teams were either just started or, when they're real young came around, they're been fans from day one. Yep. And you go to a Lightning game, and you can still get some of those games where you got the snowbirds coming in, and that's welcome and expected. It's part of being a vacation city, but it's not like it used to be where it was like that for most games. It's just kind of certain ones on a Saturday where you'll get a Northeastern team in.
Yeah.
So I want to get into a little bit about how you feel about the Bolts this season, obviously. But before I do that, I do have one quick question for you that I usually ask our Bolts guys. And do you have a favorite Stanley Cup? Is there any of the three that are your favorite for a reason? Do you obviously we love all three, but I like to get into the interesting stuff here and see if there's one that really stands out to you that you like more than the others.
There's nothing like your first. You'll never forget your first, as they say. Your first love, your first car, and your first Stanley Cup. It's all the same. The excitement of that one, it being a Game 7, there's no recreating that, right? Then you have the Bubble Cups, or the Bubble Cup. That one, that was such a good team. The Lightning were so good for the 2020 Cup that. It felt almost like destined to be true. It was still awesome to see him win it, but I will say the boat parade for that, that was off the charts, man. That is so cool to get the boat parades in for the first one, and I think the second one may have even been better. Get the first one out of the way, and they know how to improve it for the next year. Those boat parades were something else. But the favorite cup's got to be the first one. You got getting that first that first ring.
Only in Tampa Bay you're gonna have a boat parade after your team wins the Stanley Cup. So shout out to the Bolts for that one. That's definitely some cool stuff.
Wasn't that the coolest thing too? Though who else has had something like that?
No, it was organic, and it's kind of dealing with what you could with the situation at hand, and what we took that lemonade and made margaritas out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure, made the best out of it, and then it showcased the city, how cool the city could be with the things that you can do, and then Riverwalk, being put in place just a couple years past. Yeah, that was amazing.
Were you in that rainstorm?
Oh, I got some pictures, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got some pictures with the boys because chaos ensued, and I ended up basically put myself in a position to be back, kind of backstage-ish. I'll never forget Yanni Gord running around in the rain, and just like he had what was he on? He had
he climbed it was like it was like a sound. Was it the sound where the
sound tower?
Yeah.
He had like a cart that you would put stuff on, not a raised cart. It was just like a flat wood cart. And he was like running as fast as he could and like sliding on it, like jumping on it and sliding, just kind of like belly first. Just the guys were going nuts. That was, that was fun.
Before we get you out of here, this has been really good, actually, man. There's some good, interesting stuff you have here. I like the perspective you had of giving, maybe the younger kids, when you went to the watch party, you were struggling to even know what was going on. Nowadays, these kids don't even remember those days. They're out there now with technology, knowing everything that's going on. So I think that was a really cool story to give everybody a perspective of what it was like to, feel that first Stanley Cup and be in that moment. So I kind of want to get your opinion though on this season. Obviously, we lost some key components. Pat Maroon's gone, Corey Perry's gone. We're the Lightning are in that mode where it's kind of like we're not rebuilding, we're keeping our core guys, and we're kind of building around them because we still got Cooch, Stammer, Point, Bassey's here. So we still got those key guys that can carry us to victory, obviously. So maybe just give me a little bit of your outlook on the season, a star player, you think maybe a standout guy we're going to have this year, and just maybe your overall outlook on how you're feeling about this new team here.
Sure. The Lightning have had the most games played for any franchise. I think if you look at the last 4 years, the number of games played is ridiculous when you include the playoffs. They kind of needed a little bit of extra rest. There's a few guys that you could say had a little bit of a rougher season, and maybe because of wear and tear. Victor Hedman being one of them. And honestly, we've had some in-depth discussions about it, but I thought Vassy had a bit of an off year. I'm really looking to see those guys bounce back. I think they've got the type of personalities and drive that will show them this offseason really working hard to play better. So I think there's good things in store for the Lightning. Every time you try writing this team off or saying that they're getting too old, look at someone like Steven Stamkos. Was it like 3 or 4 years ago? People were saying, oh, maybe he's past his prime. He goes the next season and gets 100 points and has the best season of his career. You can't ever write these guys out. And there's been a ton of changes. A lot of them I think are improvements. I thought we had an absolutely dismal fourth line last season, and all of those guys are gone. Added a lot more speed, added some size. I mean, when you look at what Pat Maroon brought to the team, he did a great job of getting the Lightning over the hump to win their first cup, but then wasn't necessarily able to contribute much more after that. Thank you for his time, but now that he's gone, it's opening up opportunities. I think this is going to be a season where you get to see some relatively fresh faces step into some new roles. Hopefully we can get ABB to perform and actually stick on the team. And if he doesn't, maybe some trade fodder to get someone in at the trade deadline. Some people are saying that it's going to be a bad season for the Lightning, but I don't think that at all. I think it's just going to be a season where we're going to see some big changes, and there's no one better at the helm than John Cooper to help lead a team like this to another playoff run.
The question I was going to have is speaking of fresh faces, is like, we just saw the prospect camp happen, and there were quite a few guys that I think have just off the top of my head, like Valtteri Morella, Joe Carroll, Hugo Anfeld, I think really like poise themselves as like names you might not see on the Lightning right now, but they're going to be pushing people up in the organization, where they're going to have to make some decisions on guys that are at the bubble, because every year there's a new crop of brand new guys that are moving up the ladder. So are there any kind of young guys or guys in Syracuse or something like that you think are going to get their first shots, or might surprise some people and get a shot quicker than you might think?
I honestly don't think there's going to be someone that really shocks us in going into this season. I think we got that last season with a major revelation being Nick Perbix. I mean, that's not something that happens very often, though. I don't believe that there's going to be someone that can come in and step into a major role like he did. Might not see that again for several years. The farm system is something that still is regrowing. There's been a lot of trades and a lot of draft picks that have been spent in the pursuit of the Stanley Cup. But that, it's part of the game. I'd trade away a ton of players in order to get another chance at the run. And, you can look at it now and be like, oh no, woe is me. But, we got 2 cups out of it. So I don't think that there's going to be any huge surprises. We got that out of, like I said, Nick Perbix. But I am looking forward to seeing what sort of guys will be on, kind of like the taxi squad as injuries start to come up. And you never know, because, one game, a guy can be playing, looking relatively rough. You get him a few more reps, and then he steps into the full speed and starts playing extremely well.
Yeah.
For some reason, my memory's slipping me a little bit. Who's the defenseman? The defenseman last season that did that at the end of the season.
Philippe Myers or
No. Give me 2 seconds. I'll peek. But the first game that he had played, it looked relatively rough, and then he stepped up and.
Bogo rough in the beginning? Oh,
Radish.
Taylor Radish. Yeah.
Darren Radish.
Darren Radish.
But he looked pretty rough, and then I thought he started playing really well, and when he was playing well, it was actually even playoff hockey. So with these guys and their development, it's. I don't think there's going to be any big surprise at the start, but maybe there will be mid-season.
Yeah, because to me, it's like with the cap the way it is, you're looking at guys like you said ABB, but also like Koepke, Fortier. There's guys that are costing us money right now that are in the minors that it's either they're going to play or injuries will happen, so everyone's going to get their shot.
Yeah, it's just whether or not they play enough games to actually be, no longer eligible for the two-way portion of their contract.
The core, obviously, the core is a Hall of Fame core, so the window is open. It's just the profit at the margins is guys like ABB.
Yeah,
on that fourth, the depth and getting into the playoffs and being able to be at least a net zero and not a negative. Come the clutch time.
Yeah, I'd say that, for this coming season, guys to really look out for are the ones that we did right at the trade deadline. Tanner Jeannot, he's going to be,
he'll be fighting.
He's going to be a fan favorite. If you don't know who he is, start paying attention to this guy. Mikey Esamont, he's also another guy that has kind of shades of, maybe a Braden Point in him, maybe a Yanni Gourde style player. And he's also going to be mixing it up quite a bit. So, if you're looking for new heroes to kind of watch that are new, those are going to be the guys that'll give you the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah. It's real quick, it's crazy because after the trade deadline last year when we got, Janat and Esamont and all of them, everyone was like, oh, they're not performing well. And I'm like, whoa. First of all, it's a trade deadline. Give them time. And now they had half a season to play with us, and now they're going to have a full season to play with us, plus practice reps, plus we've had tons of time off not making the cup this year. So, I think this team's going to be rested. I think the lines are going to be gelling together. Like you talked about, they're tired. Like they've played more hockey than anybody in the league, and it got us 2 cups out of it. So now last year, we took a little, we lost to Toronto in an unfortunate series, which I think we still could have won that series. We had that series, in my opinion. We lost. It was Toronto's time to finally get the win. And I just don't think the Lightning are going to be bad this year. I think we're going to be fine. It's going to take time, but I think mid-season we'll be fine.
And unless you're an absolute elite level player, someone that you can be on the first line at the trade deadline, you probably don't have the ability to instantly improve a team, from a chemistry standpoint. Right. You really need some reps. Right. And especially a third liner, it's going to take a little bit to, figure out how the system works and his role. And, now that they're going to get a full training camp in, those guys are definitely going to do well.
Look how good Hagel had last year. Look at his season after, he came over in the trade deadline. We were like, whoa, where's this goal scorer at? And then boom, next season, look at him last year, so it takes time. We just got to be patient with these kind of guys.
I was guilty of prejudice on Hagel. I was definitely guilty of saying that, I don't know if he's the right guy. And then he came in playing with Point and Cooch, and then he could keep up with these guys. Wow.
Yep. Unbelievable. So, looking forward to this season. I think it's going to be a good one. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun.
Joe, buddy, I appreciate you coming on the lounge and talking to us about a lot of cool stuff.
Love it.
It's you have an interesting perspective on life and the Bolts, and I'm glad that we get it every week on the Lightning Show, and then we got to get a little deeper today. So
it's just fun, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and when this one comes out, it'll be right at the start of the hockey season ramping up. So come hang out with us on the Lightning Show, and looking forward to the season, guys.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Have a good one.
All right. Well, what a really fun interview we just had with Joe Zammataro. I didn't expect to really get into the Brandon skating complex, Stanley Cups, and all that, but or the student rush. Talk about student rush and getting in there.
Man,
So
it's good stuff.
So it was really fun. Again, make sure on the RBLR Lightning Show every single week is where you can find Joe Zammataro and the boys talking about the Bolts. Well, Chris, we've talked hockey, we've talked football. Now it's time to talk, something real, something real. And that's who your pro wrestler of the week is, sir.
I took Samoa Joe this week, man. I think him in this MJF feud is going to be great. They even brought up the old video of him pushing him when MJF was a lonely security guard, for next back then. So I think this feud's going to be good. I think they're pushing the right guy to take on MJF right now. Why not have a guy like Joe who's been around, years and years now, a good veteran guy to take on the rising star of wrestling right now in MJF himself. And obviously, I think I wasn't sure who was going to take Roddy Strong and Joe, because I thought you could split this storyline both ways, right? Which way are they going here? Who's going to take on MJF at Full Gear? And obviously Grand Slam now it's going to be Samoa Joe. So, but I think Samoa Joe's just on fire right now. I think I think he takes the loss here. I don't think you take the belt off MJF yet. Somehow, some way, Joe loses, but Joe always gets along. I don't think Joe's ever a locker room issue, so I think he's cool with the way the storyline's going and everything. So got to give it to the veteran Samoa Joe, who actually met at Publix one time. Super nice guy. So I'm giving it here to Joe for wrestler of the week.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but Samoa Joe has this unique ability that it doesn't matter if he wins or loses. He always comes off as a threat. Like every match. Even like literally, I know, I believe that he will lose against MJF, but I can't wait for these promos about I'm gonna come and take everything from you, and at the end of Dynamite, right? He's over Adam Cole's body, and there's not a cooler guy in the world. Like he's just this, he's flexing for the crowd, he's showing off, and you go for that. He has this ability for that split second to be like, yeah, man, but I believe him. I believe what he's saying, right? He suspends that disbelief that he's a compelling figure, right? So I love it, and it doesn't hurt Samoa Joe that even if he goes and loses, because it would be a complete shock. It would be if he becomes the AEW World Champion this week. It would be a complete shock. And it doesn't hurt him that if he loses, he will have lost no status in this company or as a character. He'll be just fine. And I think it's going to be a very compelling match about how MJF can work around a person that can put him in a submission, is bigger than him, and is more experienced. It's a good way for MJF to show off his wares. And MJF is a very, very, very skilled wrestler. So. But it's also good that Samoa Joe gets the shine. He deserves it. I think most wrestling fans understand who he is and what he means to this to the sport of professional wrestling. So,
absolutely.
So that was good. My pro wrestler of the week is none other than Toni Storm, who is just a revelation with her character. This Hollywood starlet, going crazy, and it's finally a character that is clicking on all the cylinders for me for Toni Storm. Because Toni Storm will compete for the Women's World Championship against Saraya at Grand Slam. So it's interesting because Toni Storm came out to the Outcasts music, right? Then they immediately cut to the Outcasts, who do a heel promo on her about how we don't like you, and I'm gonna show you, your place and beat your memory back into you, or whatever they said. And it's like, well, is Toni Storm part of the Outcasts? Is she being kicked out of the Outcasts? if she wins now here's where I think I don't want Saraya to have a super short time, but also Saraya doesn't need the belt. There's nothing Saraya can do to elevate this belt, in my opinion. And Toni Storm could win the belt, but I don't think she will. But it's a possibility. It's more of a possibility than some other championship matches. But I could totally see Toni Storm and this new whimsical character somehow cheat or do something or like cheat without thinking she's cheating or whatever, just kind of whimsically beating Saraya or at least coming very, 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 very close to set up a three-way or to even though Toni Storm loses, she doesn't lose her standing in the championship rankings that they don't do anymore. But the new T-shirt that she's got and her interactions with Renee Paquette in the back, it's just chin up, just the watch for the shoe. It's classic, man, and it's she's deranged in all the right ways. She's finally, I think, a living, breathing character that isn't just I'm a rock chick or I'm an outcast or something. I mean, it's just like there's no meat on those storylines, and now you've got this kind of crazy. It's not quite like R-Truth in WWE, but it is just sort of this like she's crazy because she's detached from reality, not crazy like her husband Juice Robinson, who's like a Tasmanian devil. Like it's none of that. It's just its own unique aloofness, not quite like Orange Cassidy, but like we don't know what room she's actually in, even if she's standing in front of you, kind of thing. Right. So I want to see where that goes. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thing on Toni Storm. Have you any thoughts on Toni Storm before we wrap up?
I think it's the best character she's had as far as being, at least in AEW since I've been following her. It's definitely more on the interesting side. I think sometimes when trying too hard, I think now she's kind of relaxed and looks like she's having fun. And I think sometimes when wrestlers do that, and they, not necessarily that she's breaking character, but maybe that she's doing a character she more so enjoys herself than being that other character she was. Okay. It shows a lot, and sometimes that's all it takes to spark somebody and change some stuff. Look at the Acclaimed. Like the Acclaimed went from Dark Elevation to tag champs, all because they were coming out and everyone was digging the scissoring and the rapping, and it was funny. So it's always good to have that goofy personality in there on a wrestling show.
Yeah, if your personality, I mean, look, I talked about Roderick Strong a week ago, and it's like if your personality is just I'm a good wrestler, cool, and I want to beat you. You, buddy, or I don't like you because you are bad, or you're a good guy and I'm a bad guy. It's okay, cool. Like there's nothing there. But to have a fully three-dimensional character that we're like has feelings or wants or needs or whatever, and we understand where this fits into a long-term and short-term narrative. Now we're cooking. And I think you've seen it with Roderick Strong, a guy who was just a generic dude wrestler. Now Toni Storm was just for lack of a better term, just like, oh, I'm hot and I'm good at wrestling. Like, okay, now we have a runway, we have a story that we can sink our teeth into for a lot of these characters as we come out of the all out, all in landscape. Now and the post CM Punk landscape, there's opportunities and people like Swerve Strickland that we could have talked about him as a wrestler of the week. Guys that are getting their opportunities to shine finally. So, absolutely. Well, Chris, buddy, I hope that I'm wrong about the Bucs. I hope that you're right about the Bucs.
Thanks, man.
But it was a good week. What are your overall thoughts as we get out of here, buddy?
Man, great week in Tampa Bay. Obviously, the Rays are right there, man. Heck of a series versus the Orioles. Man, football season's in full swing, like Joe said, and hockey's coming back around. Man, this is a great time of year, especially if you're a Tampa fan, because we got all sports going on right now. So glad everybody tuned into the show. I appreciate everybody watching and following. So like, subscribe, all I got. Go Bucs, baby.
Thank you for everyone that came out to the watch party last night at the Berry House. We love you guys. For everyone, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share us. Let your friends know where you get your information. And that's all of us here at RBLR Bucs. Rays, Lightning, we out.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.
As I die.
I'll cover all that.